Welcome to the Moving to Denver podcast with Hayley Bartlett, your Aussie agent. Today I have Destiny Dehaven with me. Destiny's little caption is all about being a bullshit detector and pattern breaker, which I love. And today we are just going to chat about how they moved to Colorado and what helped them make that decision, and some of the things that Destiny can share to help you when you are moving to a different state, country, or town. So, Destiny, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So like she said, my name is Destiny. I actually was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. My husband and I met in 2007, and he was a part of the Army. And shortly after that, he was medically discharged. So I want to say it was about 2011, he was given an opportunity to go to Wyotech, which is in lovingly, I love this little town, and let's admit, it's BFE, Laramie, Wyoming, which was totally different from Honolulu, Hawaii. And it was there. Oh boy, yeah. And it was there that I started my first life coaching business. So Laramie has a little piece of my heart, and it was 3 years of, oh my gosh. And so we stayed there for about 3 years. And in 2015, we moved to Colorado.
And are you happy in Colorado?
Love Colorado. Love. Like I don't even know how to explain. I guess it's a little bit of everything. And so it's really easy to find something to fall in love with here.
Right.
And people ask me a lot, like, do I miss my family back home? And although I do, what I miss is the ocean, because I'm not going to find that here. However, right? Like, yeah, you know what I mean. However, there's just so many other things. Like, the people here are amazing. We've got an international airport, like, right down the way. We've got music. We've got so many things that just make it absolutely lovely. And then my husband can go hike and hunt and that kind of stuff that I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. It is perfect. There are things to do for everyone. Like, us outdoorsy people that like to hike or bike, you can do that. There's trails everywhere. And then if you don't like to do that, then there's plenty of other things to do, like sit in a brewery and drink a beer, or, go to a movie, or just do those regular things that people like to do. So I totally agree. But tell us how you came about the decision of moving to Colorado next.
So when we moved to Laramie, Wyoming, I promised my husband 3 years there, because that's how long it was going to take him to go to school. And we also moved there because my husband needed a kidney transplant. So we figured that throughout this 3-year period, he could go to school and he could get the transplant, which was actually here in Colorado. So it was close for us. And so about 2 years to 2.5 years in, I'm like, hey, babe, we're going to need to start talking about where we're going to move next, because my 3-year stint is coming up. So let's have a chat. And so we wrote a list of like all of the things that we loved or wanted near us. And there were a couple of states that were on that list. And while we were going through it, it was sort of a pros and cons checklist kind of thing going on. He looked at me, he's like, hey, what about, and at the almost exact same time we said Colorado. And that happens sometimes, but not often enough that we dismissed it. That was kind of like a, whoa, what is this? And so we decided to take a drive down 287 and see if there was a place that we wanted to live. And we decided to move to Loveland for a couple of years. And then about a year and some change ago, we bought a house in Greeley. So we're here.
Awesome. So tell everybody that's listening what you love specifically about Greeley, because Greeley is north. It's northern Colorado. It has a reputation for spreading its cow smell down to the rest of us down here. But I also know there's great things about Greeley, because I love like going up there and just hanging out for a day. So tell us those specific things that you love about living up there in Greeley.
So I love the fact that everything is just a couple of miles away from us. Like, we can go in one direction and there will be farms to experience if that's what you want to do. Go in the complete opposite direction and you'll run into strip malls. Just the fact that it's that diverse is amazing. I can also actually find Hawaiian food here in Greeley, which I couldn't in Loveland. And I'm going to guess it's because of the diversity here. And we're near a college. So that's always a bonus. And so there's this like mix of like the older generation, the younger generation going to college, and like there's a rebirth going on in Greeley where it's growing, and everybody's like, are you Central or West Greeley? I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that question anymore, because I feel like we're growing so much that I think now we might be Central. That it's amazing to see what's happening here in Greeley, and the people here are fantastic. Like the first day we moved here, our neighbors came across the street and they're like, hi, we're your nosy neighbors. And they've been amazing the entire time. And it's just this wonderful community that I think is sort of a hidden gem that has this bad rep. But I will admit, the first time that smell hit, I was like, oh, what is this? So there is a bit of that. And you know, in my mind, when I hear that smell, I'm like, that is the smell of someone's money. Right?
That's like they say, it's the smell of money.
Someone's making some money on that. So great. Like, good for you. I'm going to go in my house and shut the door.
So for those of you that end up moving to Denver or have just moved to Denver, if you are on the north side of Denver, which is where I live, you are going to get that smell whenever there's a weather shift. So usually when there's snow coming, you can tell it by the smell.
Smell comes first.
Yeah, the smell of poop in the air. You're like, oh, there's snow coming.
Yep. The smell comes first and then the weather. So it's almost like like it's telling you ahead of time. Like it's an early warning system.
Right. It's a bonus.
Totally.
Except when you have your windows open and it starts coming into the house.
Yes, there is that. And that is a quick, like, close everything up right now. Right. So yes.
It's funny because like I'm on a lot of like the mom boards and things like that in the area. And the people that move here, they're like, what's that smell? What's that smell out there today? And it's like, that's Greeley. Like
that's Greeley. That is Greeley. Yes. And driving from here down to Denver, you smell a lot of Greeley.
Right. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. There could be worse things in this world, right?
Agreed. Yes.
So where is this Hawaiian place in Greeley? I would like to know.
Oh, no, there's just like food here. So there's like a little shop that sells like Hispanic and Hawaiian food. My husband actually found it. And so like you can go in there and buy like some sauces and stuff. Like we make our own Hawaiian food. However, it's fantastic. I will say if you're in Denver, there is an L&L. I want to say it's in Aurora. Oh okay. My God, run there. Get there early if you want the good stuff. I think they open at like 10. See, like this is, yeah. So that's one place to go if you're in Denver. But up here, there are a couple of restaurants. There's one in Windsor and one in Fort Collins. But like to find just the things that I need to make Hawaiian food is really difficult. And my parents would have to ship it to us. But now they don't because my husband found this little hole in the wall gem. And I was like, you're going to have to show me where this place is. And he doesn't want to because he knows if he does, I will be there a lot. And our food budget would be blown basically.
So he's a smart man, in other words.
He really is. Yes. Sometimes to his detriment and to, yep. Yeah, that. Yep.
Because I love the tea cavern up there. There's the little tea cavern that does all the different teas, and then they make like the paninis and stuff like that. So I always like to stop in there for a cup of tea when I'm up there. It's the English blood, I got to have my cup of tea. And then WeldWorks is got to be my other favorite place up there.
Well, and the thing is like you can find all of these amazing things in Greeley that is just. I'm consistently blown away. And I was just like, wait, that's here?
Right.
Like from mom and pop hole in the walls to chain restaurants. I was just like, okay. Didn't expect it. And yet there it is. So it's kind of neat.
It is definitely. We take our son up there when we go up there and we let him kind of walk around I was showing houses up there one day. So my husband and him were like doing a university tour up there.
Mm-hmm.
He's in 6th grade, you know, he's got a while till that happens, but he was just so impressed that they were like eating pizza on hammocks and playing frisbee. And I want to go here. I want to go here when I go to university.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And like just the restaurants that come with being in a college town, that is just, I'm like, yes, please sign me up. Check that box. We're good.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you have had a couple of moves now. So what were some, I guess, struggles of moving around? I've talked about my struggles in my previous episodes. So I always like to hear about other people's, like some of the struggles, and then we'll like talk about the positive stuff.
Yeah. So I think the first struggle that I had was from moving from Hawaii to Laramie, Wyoming. Not having the beach, not having my people. My husband, being that he was in the Army, was always moving. So he was just sort of used to it. And for me, it was sort of like, it felt like a breakup, right? Except like I wanted to still be in touch with the person. It's not like I wanted to just be like, oh, go away. This is my family, my friends. Picking up and completely changing my life to do this, it was a hard transition. And then there was the fact that like we moved to Laramie in about June, and then my husband started school like early July. And so he was also on dialysis at the time. So he was gone about 18 hours of the day. So I was like figuring this all out by myself, and it was like this weird place. And I was like, I don't really want to be here, but I have to be here. And it was just like, I don't want to meet people, but I want to meet people. So it was this weird like cluster going on in my head, because I was like, no, I want my people, right? And it was just difficult because I felt like I was going at it by myself.
Right.
But then I was like, well, do I keep throwing that pity party, right? And then the other thing with Laramie is that it snows all the time. I think it snowed from like September, and then it snowed in early April, and everybody's like, it should be done. We should be done until like August or September of this year. And then it snowed in May. And I was like, oh, you know, this was all good. This was fine until you decided, Mother Nature, we need to have a conversation. You just trampled on my summer. And I was like, no. And I put my foot down, because for that whole maybe first year, it was learning for me. It was like brand new. I'm like,
right.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And then I'm like, oh, you've gone too far. And so the weather really like, it kind of takes its toll. And like you don't really have a choice with it. You know, they would shut down I-80 in both directions in really bad snowstorms. And you've got to figure out like, whatever you have is all you have.
Right.
And so it's sort of like, what do you do? And it was, I won't say it was like, you know, survival in the woods, but it was definitely survival in a little city for me, where I was just like, this is really small. And the community would double in size double or triple when the colleges would come in, and then like go completely away during the summer. And I was like, this is weird. Just weird. And so I'm so used to always being surrounded by people. Growing up in the city, I mean, we've got like over 1 million people on one little tiny island.
Right.
You're gonna run into people. And then to like not run into anyone, I was just like, okay, what is this? So there was a lot of just new, plus going through the transition of, you know, leaving home.
Right.
That was, and for the first time, like I had moved out, but I was still on Oahu. Like this was, we're putting an ocean and a few states in between us kind of a thing. So that was a bit much.
Right. I get it. Like, yeah. So I left Australia to come to my new husband in St. Louis. And so marriage was new, like sharing a bed and a bathroom and all that was new. It was like, there's a whole lot of different going on here.
Yeah, it really is. And like I feel like the communities all feel a little bit different as well.
Right.
And so like in Laramie, you've got to be tough. And if you're not, they will spit you out. And so it's like, you either stick with it or you don't, and they don't care. And I was so fortunate to have really amazing neighbors who would check in on me, because they knew they found out from our landlord that, you know, I was from Hawaii. And so they would check in on me, and I'm like, that's the sweetest thing ever. Like, thank you. Cause I didn't even, okay, so seriously, I didn't know that I needed to shovel my own sidewalks. That was a learning lesson. I seriously thought that the city had people that just did it, because like in the movies, all of the sidewalks were always done. And I was like, I don't get it. They popped a ticket on my door, and I had to go down to the office, and I was like, why is this on my door? I don't get it. And they explained to me like it was my responsibility. And then on top of that, I was like, wait, so you're telling me that I need to shovel sometimes while it's still snowing?
Right.
And they're like, yes. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense in my brain. Like it just, and for my husband who had moved, and he had, you know, he grew up in Oregon, he was like, of course we shovel our own sidewalks. And I'm like, this is the information that I need, right? Like how do I know this?
Right.
And then I didn't know how to turn on the heater in the house. I was like, I felt like I was just completely incompetent when it came to the winter, but I also knew I could learn it. I just didn't know what to learn.
But it makes you tough. Like moving to a different place really like makes you tough. And like, I think sometimes it's hard for my own family even to relate, because you change.
Yeah.
Especially like moving to a whole different country, like it changed me a lot. And I look back and I think, oh my gosh, like I am such a stronger person. I am such a tougher person. Like I know I can do all this by my own, you know, on my own, like all this stuff.
Right.
And yeah, I think it brings a whole new perspective to your life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a complete shift. And when one of the guys that I used to work with in Laramie was like, you're a tough broad, you could hang here. I was just like, yes, I've made it. I've made it. That's what I was waiting for.
So I guess that so what have you learned from these moves? Like about yourself, about how to deal positively with things so you don't get stuck. I remember spending the first probably 2 to 3 months in America on the couch watching Dawson's Creek and crying every day. Like I just remembered that the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so sad. Like my husband would go to work and I'll put Dawson's Creek on and sit on the couch and cry.
Yeah. But the thing is you got to let yourself go through that, right? Like I totally had, I'd say it took me about a year before I even really wanted to meet people outside of my neighbors. And and we were the house that cooked. So all of the boys, men that went to school with my husband, they would come back to our house and eat. And so that was sort of like the little community that I was building. And back home in Hawaii, we cook. And so you cook for everybody. And so I found like that was kind of the niche that I had to kind of bring people into my house.
Right.
But going out, I really didn't want to. And I think that's okay. Like there's a healing that takes place when you leave somewhere. There's a letting go. There's all of these emotions and these feelings that pop up. And if you don't acknowledge them and if you don't let them process through, man, they keep popping up and at the most inopportune times, right? And so like, I just had to let myself go through it. And luckily we were blessed that I had the time to do that. And I think it was also keeping an open mind to learning things. Like all of it was new. All of it was so brand new that it was seriously learning. And it was also being vulnerable in that I was like, I don't know this stuff. And I know for them that's weird to hear because they're like, how do you not know this stuff? But as soon as they found out that I was from Hawaii, they're like, oh yeah, you wouldn't. And so having that connection and telling them that made it really easy for them to understand and be more compassionate towards like the weirdo that doesn't know she has to shovel her sidewalks. Right. And so I just found like being myself and being open with what was going on. I also had a really amazing support system through a personal development company that I went through, and they would check in on me. Some of them actually used to live in Laramie. And so they'd be like, hey, try this place and try this place. And it was lovely to have that. And then to kind of build sort of a routine, right? Like my husband and I would go and eat breakfast every Sunday at this one place, or and that was the getting out, right? Yes. That was the slow and steady. All right, hey, these people are cool. And then my husband went to work for a U-Haul company that also repaired cars. And so then the owner kind of took us in as like their kids. And then we got to meet their friends and their family. And we built ourselves this community. And it was ours, right? Like within this community of Laramie, Wyoming, like we had our community, and we still keep in touch with them. We'll drive up there every so often to like say hi. But that was really important to just keep it going, because I think if I didn't have that, I would have bailed out much, much earlier than 3 years. And I don't think we would have even gotten to Colorado.
And that finding that place on Sundays that you went to, I always say to people, number one, find a familiar place, like whether it be a coffee shop, whether it be a diner or the library, or find that familiar place, go there once a week, and just that familiarity can really like bring comfort, I feel.
Yes. And it was sort of something to look forward to too, right? Like, right. Oh, we're going to go there on Sunday and it's a really great restaurant and the people there are fantastic. And it was like cheers. They really did know your name. Right. And I was like, I knew you wouldn't find in a big city like Hawaii. And I mean, you might in certain areas, but not in the city. I don't think. And so the fact that we could walk in and they're like, Destiny, I was like, oh, dang, hi guys. So it made it a lot easier, and it just made it a lot more fun. And, you know, I think for me, it was easier to count down the weeks rather than the days. So it was like, okay, there's one more week. Check.
Right. Yeah. And that's great advice. And I was going to ask next, like, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to someone when moving? And maybe it's that, or maybe you've got some other gem for us.
Yeah. So I really like, give yourself time to feel what you're feeling, and just know it's okay. Like there were many nights of breakdowns. There were many nights of like, what did I do? There were many nights of like, I kind of want to call my mom, but I don't want to call my mom, because I was like, if I call my mom, then I'm going to cry. Like there are many nights, but whatever it is, just let yourself feel that, and it's okay, right? Like that's first and foremost. Like it's totally okay. When you're ready, because you will be, like that's the beautiful thing about this. You're going to get ready. I'm not going to tell you when, because for some people it's quicker than a year. Like it took me a year, mostly because I think that was like 30 some odd years of living in one place and then, you know, moving. Right. However, it's going to take some time. Give yourself that time. And when you're ready, go out and find stuff. Like find that restaurant, find that diner, or maybe it's a class, right? It could be a Zumba class. I don't know. It could be a yoga class. It could be, they teach all types of classes. Maybe it's finding your class and finding your hobby that really will help you connect with other people and have like this thing that you can build a relationship on.
Right.
I think that's the next step, is then building your relationships. Like we're grown ass women and men now. We can pick our people, right? We can like, oh my God, we can pick our people.
Yeah. It's like you can even pick your family. Yes. Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm like, go pick your people. That's exciting. Like go pick your people. And that like, that's the piece right there, is getting you to that place of picking your people, and whatever that looks like.
Yep, I totally agree. I can totally relate to all of this and totally agree. And it's funny when you said like the crying. That's another thing I remember, like, because I wasn't just in a new place, I was in a new time zone. So I'd find myself awake at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I would like not wake my husband up, and I'd go into the study and lay on the floor and cry. Like, yeah, just.
I still feel like I'm on Hawaii time, like still. And I've been away for a while, and I still feel like I am on Hawaii time. And whatever that is, I'm like, okay, that's just me, I guess. But yeah, I would definitely, like, while my husband was gone, I would just like, I don't even know what I watched. I dig the Dawson's Creek though. I really do. And I'm sure there was something like that I had on that I would just bawl, or you know, and sometimes it was just like a movie, and like there was a line that they said that I'm like, oh my God, okay, like all right, you know. And and still being able to like go grocery shopping. Like there's still the grown-up hashtag adulting stuff to do, right? So go and do that. Like that's totally fine. And then like go back home and cry into a slice of bread or whatever. That's fine too.
Work out how to drive on the other side of the road, then go.
Oh my God, yes.
I have some really great stories about that. Like, yeah, driving on the other side of the road is wild.
I can only imagine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so here you are trying to like navigate a new place and then trying to like keep yourself like stay on the right side of the road. I remember pulling out of the dentist once. So pulling out, la-di-da-di-da, there's a truck coming at me, like coming at my car. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh crap. Like, what am I going to do? I had to quickly pull into this other driveway that was there. And I just like stopped the car and just sat there. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
But
oh my goodness.
It's those differences that make it fun too.
Like, really? Yeah. The first time my husband took me on the snow to drive.
Oh yeah.
He's like, okay, so you're gonna apply the gas, get to about 20, and then I want you to push hard on the brakes. And I was like, I feel like I'm being set up for something, right? And so I kind of didn't listen because I wanted to figure out what the setup was.
Right.
And he's like, no, I said get to 20 and push hard on the brakes. And so I finally did it. And I wound up skidding past the stop sign. And there was a semi coming in the other direction. And I freaked out. And I wound up like swinging my arm and hitting my husband. I'm like, you almost killed us. And he's like, we weren't going to die. We were fine. However, this is what you need to be aware of. Like, your brakes are not like, you've got to understand you're going to slide, you're going to slip. So you've got to drive slower. You've got like so many different things that I was like, you know what? We don't got to worry about this stuff in Hawaii. Like we just don't. It's just hot all the time. There's no ice. There's rain. Yep. We got to figure out the rain, but this is crazy. And yet I was so appreciative of him showing me that because it came in handy years to come. Like I can drive in the snow and like that whole bomb cyclone thing that we had.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, I got this. It's not fun. Don't get me wrong. Like it's not something I would choose. However, based on where I was and I wanted to get home, I'm like, I know I could do it and I could handle it. So it was like, you know, he really did a great job of helping me to also break in on some of the skill set that I was going to need to live there. Cause it's just very different.
Right. Yes. I was on 25 that day. I had a closing and then I had to get home and I was on 25. But the great thing was there was only like 2 other cars on I-25, which is like, usually there's like packed. And I was like, oh, okay, well this part is nice. Like there's no other cars out here.
Like I can do this. This is fine.
But I'm in the car thinking, oh, look at me. Look at this tough Aussie woman driving in the,
yep.
in the blizzard.
Yep. I'm like, look at this Hawaiian badass. Check her out. Like, haha. Look at this.
No, it's great. Like it really does. I think it brings confidence to your life when you move and you can succeed in a new spot and you build new relationships and you build a life. Definitely, I think, yeah, it brings this confidence that I probably didn't have before. And, you know.
Yeah. Same here. I can say that I didn't have it before either. So I'm just like, yeah, these are the things that I know how to do now that I wouldn't have known. And when I hear people are moving, I'm like, hey, here's a couple of tips.
Right.
Here's what you're going to want to learn so that you can stay. So.
And do you work in your business? Do you work with people that are like having struggles with these kinds of things in their life or what?
So I think it would just be struggles, period. And a lot of it in my coaching business has to do with the struggle of not being their authentic selves. Right. Like I feel like we were all born with this magic inside of us. And somewhere along the way, someone told us no, or it was too much, or, you know, like just all of these reasons not to have our magic shine. And I'm like, man, we need that again though. We need that thing that like you can feel it in your fingertips and you're like bounding out of bed to go and do it because it's your thing. And I love helping people find that. And some of them are in transition of moving. And so it's sort of finding out how to translate that to a new location.
Right.
Because like sometimes it works and it works so well, but then when you move, it's like, how do I get it to build the momentum to work again? So sometimes it is that, and sometimes it's just like, you know, different phases and stages in their life, and you know, growing their business. Do they, don't they, do they shift it? Do they change it? I'm like, oh, let's talk. Because whatever you're going to do, as long as it's in alignment with you and your magic, your secret sauce, I'm like, go do it. But if it's not, I'm like, no, what are you doing? Like, what's happening here?
Right. Yep. Totally understand that.
Yeah.
So how can people get in contact with you if they want to chat with you or want to know more about your coaching business?
Awesome. Yeah, so I have a Facebook page. It is Your Magical Destiny. Go ahead and reach me there, and I'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the podcast today and the show. I truly appreciate it, and it's been a great chat. Probably chatted longer than usual, but there's no problem with that at all because it was great information. So
Awesome.
thank you for being on the show. I really
appreciate it.